Good evening all, and welcome. Tonight, we're going to be diving deep into horrors that can happen while you are home alone. Be sure to have your house keys ready, keep your door securely locked, and your windows checked, because it's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. This happened to me about 2 years ago, when I was 17. My family went out for the day to go shopping for food, and I stayed home alone. I was in my room playing games on my PC, with my headphones on, and I always kept my door closed. After about an hour, I get up to use the bathroom. Both the bathroom and my room are on the second floor, and our house at the time was a 2-story detached house in West Belfast, Northern Ireland. So when I get back to my room, I remember closing the door and continuing to play games. About 30 minutes later, I go to check my phone, but realize I left it in the bathroom. I get up to go and get it, and notice my door is slightly ajar now. Please understand that my house isn't drafty, and I know the door is good, and does not open due to wind or whatever it was. So, this catches me off guard. But I reckon that I probably just didn't close it all the way, and head out to get my phone. I come back and continue to play, making sure I close the door on my way back in. Sometime later, I heard my family come back home. I hear them bringing the first load of shopping into the kitchen and go out to the car to get more. When they come back, they call my name and I head downstairs. When I came down, I saw that the back patio door was lying wind open. They asked if I had been out back at any point, and I told them that I hadn't been. We looked outside and saw that one of the deck chairs was pulled over to a lower part of the fence, facing a small area of woodland leading into another street, obviously not where it should be. This shocked me. My mind raced with an idea of what the hell was going on. This is my own personal theory. Somebody had managed to get in, most likely through the back door, and they went to check out to see if the coast was clear. They went upstairs, opened my room, and saw me. They must have decided to wait downstairs for some reason, perhaps thinking that I would leave or that they could ambush me, but had gotten afraid when they heard my family returning. Using the fact they had left the kitchen to go bring in more shopping, to slip out as fast as they could, and had used the chair to get over the fence. Even with this idea, I don't understand why they would risk coming in, given that it was in the middle of the day. Plus, if they had seen I had headphones on, why not just come up behind me? The worst thing about it is that I have no concrete proof of what happened that day. I have no idea why someone came in, how they got in, who they were, or anything. But one thing is certain. Someone did come into my house that day. There's more to this story though. A week or so later, at around 2 a.m, I'm in my room playing games. While playing, I ended up drifting off to sleep. Then, all of a sudden, I am awoken by my mum coming in and shaking me, asking me if I was outside. I told her no, that I've been here all night and was asleep. She explained to me that while she was laying in bed, she heard the back door slam, and as her room was just above the kitchen and back door, she felt the shake of the slam. My stepdad was working night shift at the time, so it was only me, my mum and sister in the house. I go downstairs to check, to see if everything's okay. The door is wide open. Our back garden was in pitch black darkness, so not knowing if anyone was out there, I close and lock the door, and looked around the garden from the inside with a torch. I don't see anyone outside, and decide to stay downstairs for a few hours, keeping a lookout. The next day, we changed the locks. The strange thing is about both these instances, nothing was stolen. None of our things were missing, and it seemed that nothing had really been moved or any drawers looked through. I have absolutely no explanation for this, and to this day, it baffles me. We have discussed getting the police involved, but we feel that because there was no serious evidence of a crime taking place, and that we would be moving out in a matter of weeks, we thought there wouldn't really be anything they could do to help. So we just changed the locks and made absolutely sure to keep everything on lockdown until we left. This happened in 2003, when I was very young. At the time I lived in a small condo, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a connected living room and kitchen, with an island between, and a spiral staircase with random miscellaneous things stored underneath. I was living with my dad, and a mother who was out of the picture. It was Saturday, and I remember specifically watching the TV show, codename Kids Next Door. I was in my bedroom after waking up, and my dad worked a lot of the time, but was such a nice guy that he left the TV on Cartoon Network, as he knew it was my favourite channel. During a commercial, I got up to go to the toilet, but even though I knew I was home alone, I closed the door out of instinct. Boy, am I glad about that. The next thing I comprehended was the sound of my incredibly noisy spiral stairs that can be heard literally across the condo because of how small it is. They began to rapidly make noise that got quieter over the course of about 2 seconds, telling me that whatever made the noise was going downstairs, and fast. As I was quite young, this was extremely concerning, because, as I said, my dad always turned the TV on before he left for work, and so I knew he was long gone. So what did I do? Well, as anyone my age would have done, they half thought they imagined it, and I walked out of the bathroom and looked over the 3-foot-long railings across from the bathroom door, and next to where I would walk down the stairs. And what did I see? None other than an afraid-looking man looking into my living room, but staying hidden under the stairs. After being terrified in the bathroom, I made a distinct effort to be quiet, like a spy, so that there was no way he knew I was looking at him. But he more than likely knew that I was in the house. Okay, so there's a man in the house. I can yell at him to leave, and perhaps something bad will happen to me? By the way, there's no exit upstairs, only a balcony with a screen door that has been jammed for years. And even if I somehow got it unstuck, it was a 15-foot drop, and that would be no good. So the only exit was the front door. B. Hide. I opted for option B. I waited for what felt like hours, but was in reality no more than 20 minutes, until I heard shuffling downstairs. Then the sound I was praying for, the front door opening. I was still extremely skeptical, even thinking it was a trap to lure me down, so I stayed put. All day. In view of the TV, by the way, until my dad came home, who I didn't tell about the whole incident, out of fear. I thought that he would be mad at me, so I didn't approach him. Nothing valuable was missing from the house, but you're sure as hell that I checked under the stairs every morning when I walked down them from the next 3.5 years of living there. Why he was there, I have no idea. How he was there, I have a pretty reasonable theory. Simply my dad forgot to lock the door behind him after he left. This man was trying doors in order to get in to make a quick buck, but got cold feet when he was in there. That's my best theory, and I'm glad I never had to find out. My mum used to date sketchy guys when I was a teenager. I didn't live with her much because she was a horrible role model, so my grandmother raised me for a big chunk of my life. I'm thankful for that, because she taught me so many values and how to be a lady. I later moved in with my dad and stepmom and half-siblings when I was 15, and had a wonderful life with them. When I was 14, I lived with my mother and her skeezy boyfriend Dale for a year, in the upper half of a duplex. Her boyfriend had this friend that would come over very occasionally, that looked just like the white guy from the Jerky Boys. Same hair too. And he creeped me out, because he would always stare at me, and I would always catch him doing so. My aunt lived down the block, and I would visit her quite frequently because she was the cool aunt. She was in her 20s, super fun and really pretty, and she had a 1969 Firebird convertible that we would drive around in and blast Aerosmith, as this was in the 90s. So with that said, I saw her brother-in-law, Jeff, quite a bit, because he was renting out her basement. I thought he was kind of weird, but an okay guy. So one night at about 11:30, I was home alone, and I get a knock on the door. Now our door had a square glass panel towards the top that was painted over with a little peephole scratched into the paint. I look through, and it's my aunt's brother-in-law, Jeff. I open the door and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He asks me if my mum or Dale are home. I said no, that mum was at work, and God knows where Dale is. He then asked me if I wanted to come downstairs, because he wanted to talk to me. I trusted him, because I considered him family, and I was also pretty timid and didn't like saying no to people. So I follow him downstairs to the front porch, and I see his car parked and still running on the street with the headlights on. And sitting in the passenger seat with the windows rolled down was the jerky boy looking dude that hung out with my mum's boyfriend. I paused and was like, And Jeff was like, "Hey, we want to talk to you. We want to ask you something." And he started to gently guide me into the car. My adrenaline was pumping, and all of a sudden, I felt that something wasn't right. I stopped and pulled back a little, and tried my best not to look scared. Jeff kept talking sweetly, running his fingers up my shoulders to fix my spaghetti strap, and saying, "It's okay, just come closer to me." And I pulled away politely and said it was okay. He can ask me right here. He kept sweetly trying to convince me to just come into the car so that we could talk, and said that it was okay if I was scared. I could just stand in front of the headlights. The second he said stand in front of the headlights, my stomach did a leap, and my whole body started to feel electrically charged, because I knew if I were to stand in front of the headlights, I would not be able to see and it would distract me, thus making it easy for one of them to grab me. I knew right at that moment I was in a very dangerous situation, so I started acting ditzy and dumb, because I was afraid that if they thought I was thinking that they were trying to do something that would land them in prison, he would just grab me right there and then to cover my mouth and drag me to the car, so that I wouldn't tell on him. So I started to playfully joke around and said that I wasn't wearing shoes and I didn't want to step in dog poop. Then I see Jerky Boy start to come out of his car, and then I just sprint to the house fast. I ran up the stairs and locked the door. I was shaking so badly. Jerky Boy knocks on the door about a minute later and is looking through the makeshift peephole. He starts saying that he needs to talk to my mum's boyfriend. I say that he wasn't home, so he goes away from the door, but I didn't hear him go down the stairs. Then 30 seconds later, Jeff comes up and knocks and is talking through the door, saying that he needs to talk to my mum's boyfriend, and he tries to open the door, but it's locked. I repeat myself and let them know that they weren't home. Jeff starts saying things like, "I'm sorry we scared you, honey. We just want to talk to you about your mum and Dale," and give other awful excuses. I was scared that they were going to try and kick the door in, so I decided that I was going to try and sneak out the back. I walked towards the back door, and thank God that I looked out the back window first, because I saw Jerky Boy standing downstairs at the back door. So Jeff was at the front door sweet-talking me, and his friend was waiting by the back door. I know what you're probably thinking, right? Call the cops. I don't know why I didn't. I think it was because I was so naive and timid, and this guy was my uncle. I was also questioning myself and my judgment, because Jeff kept reassuring me at the front door. So I get to the front door, and Jeff is still there talking to me, and telling me that he felt bad for scaring me. And I tell him through the door, trying my best to disguise any hint of fear, that it was okay, and that I was sorry I got spooked, and that it wasn't his fault, and I just tried my best to placate him and convince him that I believed him. They eventually left, and once the coast was clear, I snuck out and ran to my friend's house next door. I didn't tell them anything. I just said I was scared and wanted to stay there until my mum came home later. I did tell my mum though. Nothing really happened, and I thankfully moved to my dad's house 45 miles away 3 months later, and I never saw him again. When I look back on it now, years after it happened, I only perceive just how dangerous of a position I was in. I'm so glad I stuck with my gut, ran back and locked myself in, because as most of you can imagine, they had very nefarious plans for me indeed. Let's go all the way back to the mid-80s. We lived in the suburbs in a close-knit community, so I never had worries. 11-year-old me is home alone during summer break from school. My mum and dad both worked, so I was just chilling in the living room, blasting the stereo with the front door open. So a bit of backstory. My cousin was dating a guy named Jeff. They're married now with kids. Me and him hit it off instantly. He was a few years older, but treated me like a little brother, so we'd talk and pester each other quite a bit. At this time, we were fairly new in the friendship, but he would call to check up on me. The phone rings, and at this time I didn't have all the fancy things like cell phones or even caller ID. We had a push-button phone, which we brought to replace the old-school rotary dial phone not too long before then. And the conversation goes like this. "Hello? What's going on?" I think, cool, it's Jeff. "Nothing, just hanging around the house." "Are your parents home?" Jeff knew my parents worked, but perhaps he thought it was their day off. "No, they're both at work, man." "Ah, okay. So what are you wearing?" This is a bit of an odd question. Is Jeff just messing with me? T-shirt and shorts?" "Are you wearing underwear?" It dawned on me at this moment that it's not Jeff. It sounded like him, but my gosh, it wasn't him. Who is this?
David?
David who?
David Saunders.
What do you want?
I just want to talk to you.
I have to go.
Okay, see you soon.
I hang up. At this point, my mind is racing. I have no idea what just happened. Who the hell did I speak to? And, well, I told him that my parents weren't home. Wait, did he just say talk to you soon? Nah. Okay, I've heard of prank calls before. Someone was just calling random people and messing with them for sure. Yeah, it must have been that. So for about 20 or so minutes, I'm roaming around my house with the door open, blasting music and trying to shake off the call. My mind keeps repeating that last line. See you soon. There's no way he could have been serious, right? Okay, let's go ahead and shut and lock the front door just to be sure. 3 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. I walk up to the front without opening and ask through the door, "Who is it?"
It's David.
No way. I step to the window by the door and peek out. Sure enough, it's a guy in his mid-20s, smiling, giving me a wave. This cannot be happening. What do you want?
I just want to hang with you.
My mind is blank. What do I say? What do I do? My dad is home. He's in the bathroom.
Oh. Okay. Bye.
No way can it be this easy. Of course not. I see the doorknob start to turn. This guy is trying to get in. Fortunately for me, it's locked. I wait a few seconds and look out the window. No one's there. Wait. What was that? I hear someone in the bushes by the front bedroom. I run there and see the guy is trying to open the window. He tries the next one, and the next one, but they're all locked. If I'd have been an adult, I would have dialed 911 as soon as he showed up, and spoken to him through the door until they arrived. But, as an 11-year-old, I called my mum. After that day, my parents set up a system that they would call, let it ring, hang up, then call again, and of course don't leave the door open. I never heard from David again, though when I was older I sure thought I would have liked to, and to explain to him why he shouldn't be there chatting up young boys. I was at home at my previous apartment, alone. This is a not so great neighborhood. My apartment was on the ground level, and my bedroom window faced a back alley. A dumpster sat less than 2 car lengths away, where homeless people often rummaged. Just before dawn one morning, I heard a tapping at my window. My back was to the window, and my eyes were now wide open. It was still dark outside. I sleep with my lamp on, and my worn-out vertical blinds were missing a slat, causing a 6-inch gap. So I knew that whatever/whoever the source of the tapping was could see me lying in bed plain as day. The tapping was brief, maybe 5 to 6 taps, so I spent the next 5 seconds or so frozen, bizarrely trying to convince myself it was something/anything but a person watching me and tapping at my window. But then came more tapping. Now I was faced with the terrifying reality that something had been watching me through my window in the dark for who knows how long, and he decided to tap on the window. Had one of the homeless people become aggressive during their dumpster dive? Something told me that nothing good can come from turning around and looking at the window. If he got me to look at him, what then? Remember, my back was to the guy, so I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes, and pretended I was too groggy to hear him. I stood up and hazily made my way out of my bedroom, as though I were going to the restroom. Once I was out of sight, I ran and called 911, considering whether to forget any embarrassment of being in my t-shirt and underwear and bolt out of my front door, which was out of sight from the intruder. I just wasn't sure if I could outrun whoever it was, or whether anyone would help me if I couldn't. Before I could make a decision, I heard the loud pop of my window being pried open. I thought my heart would jump from my chest. At the same time, I could hear my upstairs neighbor Mike descending his stairs. I opened my door a few inches and peeked out to ask for his help. Mike was a big guy, and I'd heard he was trained in martial arts of some sort. He didn't hesitate to respond, hustled to the back of my apartment to see what was going on, and within a few seconds I heard rumbling as someone being thrown against the wall and into the bushes. A few moments later, Mike came around to my front door, telling me not to worry about seeing that guy again. He'd beaten him pretty bad. I wanted to believe Mike that the would-be intruder was maybe dumpster diving, but that he would hopefully never venture this way again. But it wasn't a homeless person. According to Mike, when the guy escaped, he ran to the front of my building, hopped into a red sports car and sped off. My neighborhood wasn't a red sports car kind of place. The police later told me that the intruder was likely someone who'd seen me out somewhere and decided to investigate and find out where I lived. So, Mr. Window Tapper, I still wonder what you would have done if you'd have gotten inside before Mike caught you. I wonder if you're still lurking where I can't see you. And because of that, I often find myself wishing that Mike had put an end to you. If you found out where I live now, I hope we never meet again. I was raised in a very religious upbringing. My parents would go to church roughly 3 times a week, along with my sisters. However, me being the oldest, and my parents not being too forceful about their religion, I became detached and started not going to church. I'm glad that they were super cool with it. Our church could be intense at times, and there were other families who, when their kids decided not to go, would get disowned. But that really isn't relevant to the story I'm telling today. So, I was home alone. My parents and 2 sisters had gone to church. I was playing on my Xbox and chatting to a few friends while we were doing a task in-game. When all of a sudden, I hear something. Plates. The sound of plates breaking downstairs. I pause for a second and listen intently. There's something downstairs. It sounds like someone's trying to pick up the fragments of whatever was broken. It was a very strange sound. I could hear them distinctly putting them from the floor onto the counter. Were my parents home already? I looked at my phone. They'd only been gone an hour. They're usually gone 3. I was a bit weirded out now. So, I told my team I'd be back in a minute and crept down the stairs to investigate. When I got to the bottom of the stairs, I looked around the corner to listen, trying my best not to make any sounds. That's when I saw him. A man in a mask, still picking up fragments of a mug that had been on our coffee table. The way our house is positioned is that when you open the back door, if you swing the door a bit too forcefully, you can actually hit the table or chair. He must have done so, and in doing so, a mug that was too close to the edge shattered. That was the sound that I heard. However, now I had a problem. There was a stranger in my house without my consent, and I was home alone. In a moment of panic, I stood completely still and debated my options. I could run upstairs. I could try and fetch something to potentially deter this intruder, or I could hide and call for my parents and the cops. Still completely unsure of where I stood, I looked to my left, just underneath the stairs, and saw, very thankfully, that my sister's baseball bat was just there under the stairs. In a moment of bravery, I picked it up and ran screaming like a madman at the top of my lungs, bat in the air. I caught the man completely off guard, and when I got up to him, he just fell to the ground and said, "Okay, I'll leave." That was easy, I thought. He started walking out the house, and I closed the door behind him. He didn't look back and jumped the fence from where he'd came. That's when the most disturbing part happened. I heard voices as my ear was pressed against the door, and it was evident that there had been a car that was still turned on, waiting for him all along. Several voices talk, and they drove off into the night. Could it have been that he was just scoping out the place, and that within a few moments, comrades could have come and swept the house? I'd have had no chance then. I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to know either. I'm just glad that I avoided a potentially uncomfortable and dangerous situation. They never came back, and I never told my parents again, as I didn't want them to take me to church regardless in order for me not to be home alone. However, now I think that that was a mistake. I wish they'd have knew, as I was terrified for months being there by myself, and if I wasn't watching a movie or playing video games with my friends to keep me distracted, I would just sit there, not knowing what to do with myself, letting the fear consume me. If someone breaks into your house, tell your parents and tell the police. It's always worth mentioning. When I was about 6 or so, my family lived in an older 2-story house. My stepfather would be the first to tell you that the house had a spooky vibe. I often had strange things happen, but only once was there ever an event with multiple witnesses and no explanation. My parents went out one night and left my older brother in charge of my younger brother and I. The master bedroom was upstairs, and my parents left the window cracked. It is important to note here that the window creaked loudly, and the screen is hard to remove. We were downstairs in the living room. Outside, the wind started picking up. I was already on edge because of the noise the house made and the wind. My mother was a very religious person at the time. In the center of her bed, after making it in the morning, she placed a large, hardcover King James Bible. It weighed at least a couple of pounds. Well, as we were watching TV, we heard a very loud thump. We looked at each other, all knowing it came from upstairs. When we went to investigate, there on the floor was her Bible. We checked the room and no one was there, and there wasn't enough time for someone to get back out. Somehow this heavy book had fallen off the bed without disturbing the blankets at all. We left it as it was, and our mother questioned us about it when she got home. My stepdad checked the window inside and out for evidence of entry, but there was none. Nothing had been taken or disturbed, except the Bible. I was an only child, and my parents both had to work evening and night shifts frequently. They were doctors, you see. So, for me, that meant total freedom when they were away. I had long gotten accustomed to them not being around sometimes, and I honestly relished in my time alone, giving me time to draw and make things out of clay, which are one of my passions and hobbies to this day. I was home alone, like I would be on most nights, and I think I was trying to draw something complicated as part of a school project. As I was just smashing away with my pencils, did I hear something downstairs? Talking. People were talking. I thought I was insane. I started making my way down the stairs, thinking that my parents had gotten home early. It was exceptionally early for them to arrive. I started talking back to them, asking why they had arrived so soon. And as I reached the bottom step to look round the corner, did the talking completely stop. I looked around, and there was no one home. Could there have been an intruder? I thought. I went to grab the door handle, pushed it down, and sure enough, the door was locked. The back and the front. No windows were open, and no one had opened them in a while, it being winter and all. After giving a brief check, was I 100% certain that there was no way anyone was in this house. Confused, thinking that perhaps my mind was playing tricks on me, did I ascend the stairs again to continue my drawing. But not 20 minutes later, did the talking start up again. This time, more animated. It sounded more like 5 or 6 people having an energized conversation. This time I was confident that I wasn't mad. But with more caution did I begin to descend the stairs. I listened, sitting there, sure that they were saying something. I was trying to pick up on their words, but I couldn't really hear them. It was almost as if they were speaking a bit too fast for their words to understand, but I could pick up little bits and was sure they were speaking English. When I hit the bottom step and started to turn to go towards the kitchen, did the noise all of a sudden stop. I ran in. No one there. At this point, I was beyond terrified. I called up my grandma, who lived 10 minutes away, and asked her to come and collect me, giving no explanation. When my parents got home at 2 a.m., I was still awake and told them what had happened. My dad sat down with me on the sofa and explained something that I will never forget. That these noises had happened for a long time, and that he's surprised I hadn't heard them sooner, but that they're nothing to worry about, and that he didn't know what they were, but it's best just to leave them be. I was incredibly unsatisfied with that explanation, and sure enough, from time to time, the noises would start up again. Sometimes it would be a few, sometimes it would be many, but consistent they would be. We didn't live in that house long after that, and I almost forgot about this experience entirely, but it is one of the many mysteries of life that has weighed on my mind. When I was 16, my mum and sister had gone grocery shopping. I was just home, listening to the radio and playing my Nintendo, when all of a sudden there's a knock at the door. I look up and see 2 well-dressed gentlemen with briefcases. I go open the door and ask them what they need. They tell me that they're new to the area and are trying to collect funds to save a children's centre from where they're from. I didn't ask for any more information, but told them that my parents aren't home, and therefore I didn't have any money to give them, and asked them to kindly move on to the next house and wish them luck. I was quite happy with my response, feeling like a confident young adult, closing the door and returning to my game. However, I had just given them a little bit of information that I shouldn't have. I told them I was home alone. I didn't think much of this at the time, not until they started creeping around our yard. They went round the side of the house and got into our backyard and started peering in. I looked at them and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" They said that they were just looking around. I was getting angry at this point and told them to leave or I'll call the cops. But they didn't do anything. They kept looking around our backyard. I was starting to get agitated and picked up the phone and started yelling at them. "I'm gonna call them." They still didn't react. I punched in the numbers and told the operator that there were two strange men in my yard and asked what I should do. She said to hide and that cops would be there soon. So I did. Of course, like in every story, the moment the cops arrive, these two people are gone. I told the cops about what I'd seen, and they thanked me for the information, and that was that. My mum and sister get home, and I let them know that the cops had come, and that two strange men had been looking around. I wasn't feeling very safe, but I put this to the back of my mind. About 2 months down the line though, the two men get arrested, and we see it on the news. I look at their faces, and it's them. I walk out the room at that point, horrified. My parents fill me in that they weren't good people, and had very bad intentions. I don't even want to know what they would have done to me, or what they were doing walking around my house. I just know that I'm lucky I called the cops and that they responded so quickly, as things could have taken a very different turn had I not acted on impulse. This encounter happened when I was about 10 years old. My sister and I were home alone since it was during the summer. Both our mum and grandmother were busy and therefore could not stay home with us. We were used to being alone during the summer, so it was not a big deal. The only thing we could do was not go outside nor open the door if someone knocked. During this day, I had gotten up and started to play The Sims 2 in our kitchen. My sister was watching TV in our den. A few hours into gaming, I thought I heard the doorbell ring. At first, I thought it was my game, but I had turned off the sound. So I asked my sister if she heard the doorbell. She replied that she had not, and she said it was probably just the show she was watching. I brushed it off and resumed playing my game. About 10 minutes later, I see a reflection on my computer of a man in a suit. His hands cupped around his eyes, looking through the glass door behind me. I turned around to be face to face with this strange man who I had never seen before in my life. I had no idea how long he had been watching me. He waved at me like he knew me from somewhere. I called my sister's name, who had not noticed the man yet, and she grabbed the home phone quickly to call my grandmother. Now, we had seen a salesperson before. None of them looked like this guy. He was wearing a full-on black suit that did not fit him. If not strange enough, this guy was wearing a full suit in 99 degrees and was also carrying a briefcase. All the salespeople I had seen only ever carried a clipboard, maybe a few flyers, but this man had a briefcase. The next flag that came with this guy was when he walked around our house to come to the back door, which during his little trip, he would have seen that there wasn't a car in the driveway, indicating that no one was home. As I was getting up to hide, the man reached down and grabbed the doorknob. He started jiggling it forcefully. Thankfully, the door was locked. He looked at me smiling, gestured at me to come and unlock the door for him. All the noise he had been making had now set off our 75-pound Labrador mix, making her go absolutely mad. No way was she going to let that guy in. My sister tells me our grandmother is now on her way. and she wanted us to hide in the back of the house in her room until she could get home. My sister hands me the phone, then runs into the kitchen to grab the biggest knife we have. I can hear her yelling at the guy that we had called the cops. She comes back into the room with me, and we close the door. She tells me that she lied about calling the cops, and said that he started laughing, like she had just told him the funniest joke he had ever heard. A little while later, we hear the door open, and it's my grandmother calling us. We come out to meet her, and she tells us that the man was nowhere to be seen. She'd walked around the house before unlocking the door. She also thought it was weird if he was a salesperson, because he would have left a note saying, "Sorry we missed you." She ended up taking the rest of the day off to stay with us. Also, she could watch to see if the man would come back around. It's been 11 years since this encounter, and I still do not want to know what was in his briefcase. Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I do hope that you enjoyed tonight's stories. Certainly something to ponder if you really are alone. I'm sure most of you are. No one's looking in your windows for sure. Anyway, update on the YouTube situation. So I've started the process of mass producing videos, uploading them, and waiting to see if YouTube monetizes them. I mean, they really should. For the meantime, I'm going to have to be a bit picky with the stories. Nothing too graphic or terrible that they can target me for, because I found that if they demonetize you for a video and they don't like one, maybe they'll review more and they'll just demonetize a whole load unfairly. Also, it's just not worth the risk anymore. It's a shame that doing this is becoming a bit like treading on glass, especially when you're dealing with things that are quite scary. But we will persist. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to show your appreciation by dropping a like, leaving a comment with your thoughts, and if you're new here, why not subscribe and press the bell icon to be notified of future regular content. If there's a story that you would like to share, you can send it to my email or post it to my Reddit page. Either are fine, and the information to do that can be found in the description. But anyway, for now guys, I'm going to sign off. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.